Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Indy's Trusted Servant Show on InspireSmall.biz with your host, Danny O'Malia, Indy's Trusted Servant. And thanks to Ryan Henry of InspireSmall.biz for making these YouTube interviews available to all of our friends. What is Indy's Trusted Servant? Well, that's me. I do customer service training and keynote speaking about customer service. It's all about the culture of the organization. I learned all of that at the hand of the master, my late father, Joe O'Malia, back in the O'Malia Food Markets days. And even before that, at the age of 9, when my dad had a little store in Broad Ripple, he eventually lost. One of the things he taught me was to never give up. So 10 years after he lost that store, he started O'Malia Food Markets. And if you've been around Indianapolis a while, you know all about that. If you'd like to talk to me about my customer service training and keynote speaking, give me a call at 317-413-9062. What's the Indy's Trusted Servant Show? I like to call it lively local small biz and community talk where you can feel the pulse of Indy. If you can see my tie, it's a baseball tie that I bought at Old Busch Stadium at a baseball art auction that they held in the outfield about, mid-90s. And I'm wearing it today because my guest is Cheyne Reiter of our Indianapolis Indians. And Cheyne, you can tell the folks what your position at the Indians is.
Yeah, I'm the Indianapolis Indians Director of Communications. I am in what would be my third year now in this role, but I actually joined the team back in February of 2017. Danny, baseball is all that I know. This is the fourth team that I've worked for in minor league baseball. So my journey through the minors, just like players, was starting at the very bottom.
And but let's go back before that. You grew up where? Where'd you go to school? Yeah. And then tell us about your journey through the minors.
Yep. So I'm from Iowa originally. Yep. Before we came on, telling you about where from, because not too many people, even in Indiana, Iowa and Indiana in the Midwest, but not too many big towns in Iowa. No. There's a very select few. So the two biggest ones that I grew up nearby would have been Waterloo and Cedar Falls. They're pretty much suburbs.
And Cedar Falls is Northern Iowa University.
The UNI Panthers. So I had a lot of high school classmates that went on to UNI. Wartburg College. You said your grandson is a coach at a D3.
Yep.
There's a really good D3 program just north of where I grew up. Wartburg College. Very good wrestling. Really sports across the board. So a lot of kids went there as well. But I ended up going the JUCO route. I went to junior college down in Ottumwa, Iowa.
Did you play ball there?
I did. I played 1 year of baseball and 2 years of soccer. And then really kind of got the hint. I had some injuries. I had some concussion issues through soccer and through wrestling and football when I was in high school as well. So had a concussion in college my sophomore year of soccer season, and it was our regional semifinal. Went to the hospital for it. Doctor asked my parents, how many of these concussions has he had? Because I was on the bed out at that point in time, and it was a few too many. So they said, it's probably best to hang it up. And that was really, it for me on the playing side of things. But the upbringing that I had 2 older brothers, grew up on a farm, doing chores before you go to school, doing chores when you get home from school or get home from practice. And my 2 older brothers really helped get me to the point that I am today, just for my love of baseball, for my love of sports in general. And so ended up transferring to the University of Iowa after my playing career ended. Dropped the competitive sports, still did some intramurals, some things just to fill that competitive edge in me.
Yep.
But really started to focus on what I wanted to do after college.
What'd you major in?
I majored in journalism, and then I was a sports studies minor. So was able to really find my niche in the journalism school, because quite frankly, at that point in time, I didn't really like writing. I liked speaking, and I liked the broadcast side of it. So
that's what we're doing today.
That's what we're doing today. So I was able to hop on with the student radio station there, KRUI, on campus. My last semester was the coolest semester of my entire 4.5 years in college. I was with KRUI, the student radio station, and we had gone to the athletic director and had gone to a couple, people within the athletic department there on campus, and had pitched, hey, can the student station have credentialed access to Big Ten football games and basketball games and things like that? So they said, by all means, you might not have a space in the press box, but we can at least get your foot in the door and you can have a space in the stadium.
Somewhere, yeah.
So I was calling games calling not Big Ten championship, but calling Big Ten regular season games in the fall of 2013. So I get
as
to
an undergraduate.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
As an
Pretty
undergraduate.
Cool.
So I traveled to the Shoe in Columbus, got to see Iowa take on the Buckeyes, went to Nebraska, went to Minnesota when they played on the road. Really almost the final straw or the last hurrah of my college experience was going to the bowl game. I flew down there. My stepmom is a flight attendant for Southwest Airlines. And so
Great company, by the way. I talk about Southwest in my customer service program.
I am pro Southwest all the way too.
Yeah,
try to be as unbiased as I can, but I've never had a bad experience with them. So flew down to Tampa, Florida. Got to call it alongside another KRUI staffer that was a year younger than me in college at Iowa.
Who'd you play and who won?
They played LSU. LSU had a couple guys you'd recognize. They had Odell Beckham Jr.
Oh.
They had Jarvis Landry.
Okay.
So they were lining those guys up out there in the slot and on the outside
a little too quick
at receiver.
for your guys?
They were a little quick. Iowa kept it close, but the score was not indicative of how bad the margin was.
Yeah. Cool. That's cool. So after you left undergraduate school, then you got the jobs with minor league baseball. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so it was actually the summer before my last semester in college, before that, that fun fall that I had calling football games, to where it was like January, February. I had just completed an internship, or was in the process of completing an internship in the athletic department. I was working in event management, so it was a lot of the setup and breakdown for all 23 varsity sports that were on campus at that point in time. And you had some, the football responsibilities were, when I was in the athletic department before I joined the student radio station, where they honored the 2002 Orange Bowl team that had Brad Banks and C.J. Jones and some of those players that they played USC. USC had Carson Palmer at this point in time. It was like the alumni that were coming back if you're doing an on-field presentation. So that was some of the responsibility. Good
experience.
Yes,
obviously.
It was very, very hands-on. And as an intern, it was more than you could ask for. It was exactly what you were looking for to help build a resume. And so in the last couple of months of that internship, I knew that baseball was the route I wanted to go. I love football, love wrestling, being from Iowa, love basketball, watching it. Not a great player by any means, but soccer, obviously playing in college too. So really, there were 4 or 5 sports I could have probably pursued. But baseball, man, the first time I picked up a baseball, the first times playing catch with my older brothers in the backyard, playing catch with my dad, those are the things that I will hold on to forever. I don't see my brothers as often as I want to or get to.
They still back home in Iowa?
They're back home.
Yeah.
I did have one of the older brothers living here in Indy for 6 years. I caught him for his last 3 years because he was going through his residency program here. He's an orthopedic surgeon back in Iowa now, but he was here, lived in Broad Ripple, so having him here was great. But, like I said, just us, we weren't kids that lived behind a computer screen or anything like that. We played our fair share of video games growing up. But
not too many.
But you'd have Dad barking at you, "Hey, get outside and do something."
I'm barking at my grandkids this very day.
It was that sort of upbringing that we had. That it was, hey, the sun's out, even if it's not. If there's no thunder or lightning outside, get outside and do something. So we were very active. We were out in the backyard a lot, playing catch, playing soccer, playing football, and just those pickup games helped get me. Mold me into why I love sports as much as I do and why I love baseball as much as I do today.
Interesting sidebar on that. I mean, obviously I have a lot of years on you. I maintain I learned a lot more in the sand lot and on the 3-on-3 in the driveway than I did from organized sports. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been lost a lot. But it sounds like in your case it wasn't. So tell us about your journey to the Indians in minor league baseball.
Yeah, so that fall semester finished up at Iowa, graduated in December of 2013, and had that internship in the summer in Pulaski, Virginia. So when the minor leagues contracted prior to last season, the first team that I worked for and the second team I worked for are no longer in affiliated baseball.
You say Pulaski, Virginia, and what was the second one?
So Pulaski, Virginia, they were a Mariners affiliate when I was there. The second one in 2014, that summer, I was with the Clinton Lumber Kings, right on the Mississippi, up in Iowa. Yep. So Clinton was like
were they
3
both
hours from home.
A-ball?
The Pulaski Mariners were rookie ball. So it was like rookie advanced. It wasn't the GCL, it wasn't the ACL. It was just
Okay.
a little 10-team Appalachian League. It was like West Virginia, Virginia, North Carolina, and I think Greenville in Northeast Tennessee was another team that was in that league. So it was 10 teams.
What about the Clinton team? Was that an A team?
Clinton was single A at the time.
Okay.
That league was what we know as the Midwest League. So Fort Wayne, South Bend, the Tin Caps and the Cubs.
Yep.
They were in that league. So we hosted, I actually want to say both of them came to Clinton that year. So I didn't make the trip to South Bend because I was only with the Lumber Kings for 1 year. Because then I went to the winter meetings in San Diego that December, interviewed with probably 8 to 10 teams for mostly broadcast and media relations types of positions.
Okay.
But a few other, stadium ops and a couple other positions too that I was at least considering, because A-ball is A-ball. You hear it from the players what the A-ball world is like. The meals aren't great, the hotels aren't great, the pay's not great, the stadiums aren't too spectacular either. Unless
the lighting's not so good.
The lighting's not so good. So I was ready to get out of A-ball after 1 year, and fortunately landed with the Reno Aces. So they were a AAA team for the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah.
Interesting, connection to get to Reno. But the guy who had hired me in Clinton to be his seasonal assistant in 2014, he went on to Reno to become their communications manager. So he leaves 3 weeks before the 2014 season starts, and I'm just supposed to be the number 2 guy. Well, he calls me. He's like, hey, can you come down and shadow me for a full day? Because I'm leaving and you're the guy now.
Whoa.
So
you'd already been hired.
I had been hired as what was just going to be
guy.
the number 2 guy.
Yeah. Okay.
So he leaves for Reno, and I just had that one 6 to 8 hour day with him. He shows me the ropes at the ballpark, radio equipment, day-to-day responsibilities, what it's going to look like. But again, we were just 2 or 3 weeks away from the start of that season, so was really thrown into the fire. He went west. And then after spending the season there, wrapped up at the end of September, I ended up going to the winter meetings, reconnected with him, and he's what took me out to Reno. So he brought me on as the communications coordinator out there. And he went on to Nashville. He's still there today with the Sounds. So we run into the Sounds now with the realigned AAA.
Yeah. So how long were you with Reno then?
I was in Reno for 2 years. So 15, I was his communications coordinator. Served as his assistant that year. Actually got to learn under him without him packing up. But then after that 2015 season, that October, November, somewhere in there is when he left for Nashville. And they basically, I stayed present. They said, we can bring you back because it was a seasonal role. So they were planning on bringing me back in February of 2016. Him leaving for Nashville expedited that process. And they were like, let's get him in here ASAP. So he left. I came in for about a week and they said, it's yours if you want it. And obviously I did. So I worked the 2016 season there. They had a USL soccer team kind of start from scratch as well as a expansion franchise in the USL. So what the Indy
Did they play in the same ballpark?
Yeah, they were sharing the ballpark.
Oh,
so they did that for 4 years. I was there for basically the announcement of when we were going to have a USL team, to announcing, going through team colors, to going through what the crest on the jersey is going to look like, and then eventually the team name and what the uniforms and that, just the whole 9 yards. So it was the whole upbringing. My last day in Reno was the very first game that soccer team played. Okay. So it was.
Why'd you leave Reno?
I loved Reno.
Why'd you leave?
I met my wife out there. Somehow I convinced her to come to Indiana. But
so in other words, you took the job with the Indians.
Yeah.
But you were already in AAA, so why'd you take the job with the Indians?
Yeah, the biggest thing is I'm a homebody, and I want to be as close. I wanted to be as close. I wanted to be as close to Iowa as I could. And if it wasn't the Iowa Cubs, I knew that there was a Nashville, a Memphis,
Louisville,
an Omaha, Louisville, Indy.
Yeah.
One of those 4 or 5 would potentially be a spot that I'd look at. And we had Tony La Russa. He was working in the Diamondbacks front office at this point, and I was his chauffeur for a couple of days. I did it for Razor Shines when he was here a few years ago too, but basically pick him up at the airport, give him his agenda, lay it all out for him for a couple of days, and hey, this is when I'm picking you up. Here's your responsibilities while you're in town, and I'll take you back to the airport, when we're wrapped up. So he was there for about 48 hours, and I picked Tony up, and I had a couple Cubs dice hanging in my car that I knew would not fly with Tony. So I took those down before I picked him up. I mean, I was aware of what was going to be entering my car.
Cubs.
The Chicago Cubs,
Right,
yeah.
right.
So I had Chicago Cubs dice hanging in my car, and I was like, I can't have these in here. We're going to get off to a bad start if Tony hops in and he sees the Cubs logo in my car. So I took those down, but got to meet Tony La Russa and hang out with him for a couple of days, which was awesome. And I had just teased to him that, hey, I just caught wind that Indianapolis has an opening. And he had got his start with the Iowa Oaks back in the old American Association.
That's a long time ago.
Even before they became the Iowa Cubs there in the early 80s.
Yep.
So he got his start with the Iowa Oaks as a manager. Obviously went on to do great things with the A's and then the Cardinals, and now he's still managing. He's with the White Sox. It's a bit of a surprise when they made that announcement, but he's holding strong, and the Sox are pretty competitive.
Sure. So he gave you the idea to come to Indianapolis?
Well, I had just dropped the line because I knew that he had been in Iowa, and so we had that little minor connection there with me being from Iowa, and then it was, hey, I'm looking at this job in Indianapolis. Who knows what's going to happen? Well, he wishes me luck when I drop him off at the airport because he knew that I wanted to get back to the Midwest if I could. So he says, best of luck with the job. Maybe we'll run into one another down the road. Well, it wasn't very long down the road that we did run into one another. I go to the 500 for the first time. I start here in February of 17. My parents come down. Got my brother still living here at that time, and I go to the 500, and he's a guest pit crew member, literally right down in front of us in the grandstand.
You're kidding me.
So it wasn't even me who noticed. It was either my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, or my dad or someone, and they looked down and they're like, isn't that Tony? Because they had just known that I was with Tony and I had pictures with him, and they're like, isn't that Tony La Russa?
This is good.
And I looked down there and I'm like, hey, that's Tony.
You went to the 500 right when you got here. Very smart.
Yes,
very
yes.
smart.
I got into it.
I go to my 61st 500 next week.
Next week.
So so you've been with the Indians since 2017?
17,
right?
correct.
Okay. So the Indians are my first sports love, and you mentioned playing catch with your dad. I played catch with my dad. My dad took me to Indians games, and really got to know him better at Indians games. He was working 80 hours a week as the general manager of a local grocery chain, and I really got to know my dad well at Indians games, and he taught me a lot about life at Indians games. And you know about Roger Maris when he played for the Indians?
1956.
Very good. 1956, Roger Maris, who in 1961 hit 61 home runs for the Yankees, only hit 18 here because the fence is a little farther back and a little higher, but he was banging doubles off the wall left and right. I was 9 years old, and we won the AAA championship that year over the Rochester Red Wings, 4-0. And Dad and I and my little brother were out at the ballpark that day. And I'm 9 years old, and I remember that.
That's awesome. And that's right around the time when, the team was put up essentially for
the year
sale.
before that.
Cleveland was threatening to...
Oh, all of that. In fact...
You know how that all unfolded.
I do, and in fact, my dad, for my 8th birthday, gave me a share of Indian stock. That was my birthday present. It cost $10.
Pretty good gift.
It turned out to be a heck of a gift. So, for the uninitiated, of course, the Indians are the AAA farm team of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and right now we're 1 game over 500, right?
Split a doubleheader yesterday afternoon.
Yep, and we're playing Louisville tonight?
Toledo,
the Mud Hens
in town.
Yes, the Mud Hens. So the Indians, and I want you to talk about what's going on at the ballpark, but I like to make this point. People don't realize that the Indians bring as many people downtown as the Colts and the Pacers do. Of course, they play more games, right? And of course, they don't have big tailgating and stuff like that. But what they do have is visiting teams here for 3 and 4, and then the restructuring even 5 days. Whereas the other two sports, the visiting teams are in and out of here, sometimes don't even stay the night, but at 1 night, 2 nights max. So the Indians, for the downtown hotels and restaurants, are way undervalued, right?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, having 75 games, we're playing 150 this season.
I know that. That's great.
It's our longest since '84 in terms of just number of games. So to have that amount of games and you get 75 of them at that beautiful ballpark in Weston, Maryland, and you mentioned the restructuring in the minor leagues and how they reworked the schedule last year too. That was all with COVID in mind last year, that scheduling, because if you're Toledo and I'm Indianapolis and I get COVID, well, then the only team I played that week was you. So the only other team they got to shut down is you.
Yep.
So they knew that if you kept the 3-game series and all of a sudden we played each other for 3 days and then you went to Columbus and I went to Louisville,
then you
got four teams. And then it's who are they playing? So they simplified the schedule in that way, and it rolled over to this year. And I think farm directors like it. I think our GM, Randy Lewandowski, I think he likes it. It helps with travel because you just go to one city and back. We do have a couple occurrences after this homestand wraps up where you get a pair of 6-game road trips butted up with one another. Yeah, so you fly twice, but it's a long road trip. I just asked Mason Martin. I was on with Fox 59 this morning, and Mason is our first baseman, power hitting first baseman. I said, how do you pack for a 14-day road trip? He's like, you just have to know that there's going to be a laundry day in there somewhere because you can't pack for 14 days. That's a lot. That's your entire wardrobe.
So the Indians are great. Aside from the economic impact that is underestimated by almost everybody, by the Indians, they're great community servants. And I'm going to rat on you a little bit. Cheyne was a little late for this interview because, explain why, and tell them what about the black thing.
Yeah, we've got great promotions that go on every season at the ballpark, and 2020 didn't happen, as you know, with the cancellation of the minor league season because of the pandemic. But we had 2021. It was a little different, 25%, 50%, 100% capacity finally in July. But by that point, the season was already, a third of the way done or 40, 50% of the way done. So this year we started 100% from day one. That's exciting. And, budgets are back to what pre-pandemic levels we're at. And so we're able to have some really fun promotions.
That we didn't have room for last year.
Yeah, that we really didn't have room for. It was more or less last year, let's just get people in the park, get them to buy merchandise, get them to buy concessions, and just be happy that they're back outside enjoying Indians baseball. So we were able to provide that last year with about 60 home games. And this year, up to 75. So promotion that we had going on today, or at least a community appearance that involved 3 players, Cal Mitchell, Kanan Smith, and Jigba. Both of them are outfielders, young, talented kids. And then Aaron Fletcher, a left-handed pitcher that comes out of the Indians bullpen. We took 3 of them to the Indiana Historical Society because on June 11th, we've got Negro Leagues night.
These are 3 Afro-American players.
Yes, these are 3 black players. We actually have 4 on the team, a couple mixed players. Cal has 1 white parent, 1 black parent. Cole Tucker in the same situation, but Cole wasn't able to make it, but we had 3 of them get out there today.
Cole was with the team last year.
Cole was with the team last year. He was with the team briefly in 2019 as well, but got those guys out there today, and really an eye-opening experience for them because Kanan and Cal, they're both 22 years old. Fletcher, I think, is 24, 25, so they're young. They're quite frankly
even younger than you.
They're younger than me. Quite frankly, they're uneducated on the importance of a Jackie Robinson, on the importance of an Oscar Charleston and his significance in Indianapolis that, quite frankly, not only those 3 players, you and I don't know enough about, people in this city don't know enough about.
They don't know Hank Aaron played here.
Exactly. So when you have Hank Aaron at age 18 as a young budding shortstop, and the reports you read when he was in the Negro Leagues, when you go through the newspaper clippings and the archives, it's like, hey, this kid is the real deal. And it didn't take long for the Boston Braves to realize that. They signed him to a contract, and, as they say, the rest is history. He goes on to club 715 home runs. So for Aaron to get his professional
755 home runs, right?
Or 715 broke the record.
Right.
Yeah, 715 broke the record.
755, I think.
755 for the number. And then Bonds passed him, early 2000s. But
he's still the king.
Yes, he's the king. Hammer and Hank's the king in our book, and for him to get his start in Indianapolis, I mean, that's a baseball legend.
That's significant.
That is significant. So we get the guys over there to the Historical Society. They had an African-American collections curator there that really had a ton of knowledge just on the Indianapolis ABCs, the Clowns, the females that played for the Clowns as well. You had Tony Stone, Connie Morgan, and Mamie Peanut Johnson. You had all 3 of them, break down their own barrier that females weren't allowed to play pro ball, so they broke that barrier in the Negro Leagues. And then you have Jackie Robinson and what he did in 1947. And, befriended by Carl Erskine. Located Anderson, Indiana.
Carl used to play Take Me Out to the Ball Game on his harmonica at the 7th inning stretch. I don't think he's up to it now, but Great guy.
Yeah,
Great
he
guy.
is. I had a chance to meet him a few years ago.
We're going to run out of time, but I want you to tell folks what the special nights are. You said that June 11th is the Negro League.
League's
okay,
night.
so that's big.
Yep.
What else we got? And what is the Monday value night or Tuesday? That stuff.
Yep. So our daily deals,
Yeah.
what we call them. So Mondays, we don't play any Mondays outside of the 4th of July. Falls on a Monday this year. But otherwise, that's a league-wide off day.
Oh, it is?
Across the
Okay.
board.
Okay.
Because of the 6-game series, the way it's set up, you play Tuesday through Sunday.
So Tuesday's value night.
Tuesday's the dollar menu night.
The dollar menu, tell us what the...
Dollar menu items include hot dogs, peanuts, potato chips, Cracker Jack, and popcorn. All for $1.
All
you
for
can't
$1.
beat it. It's your favorite ballpark snacks. We had a great turnout just this past Tuesday night against Toledo. About 7,000 people in park.
I will say this, the lines are long.
The lines are longer. The lines are longer, but it's all for a good reason.
So what other weekly nights are Friday night fireworks?
Yep.
Right.
Today's a Friday, so you go into Friday fireworks. Wednesdays are typically day games, 1:35 in the afternoon. So we encourage people to take a half day, take your lunch at the ballpark, cut out of the office early, enjoy a summer afternoon at Victory Field.
Now, before COVID, you had a lot of school field trips. Did you get any of those this year?
We just had one yesterday.
Okay, good.
We just had our third baseball and education game. So those are select promotions. They don't fall in the daily deals bucket, but the baseball and education games are very popular. It's basically a field trip for kids to come out. Teachers are ready for the school year to be over.
They sure are.
You sure as heck believe the kids are too. So it's a good way to spend a day and just get out of the classroom and come out to Victory Field and take a game in. So
we still
had
doing
our third one.
Then we still doing the Saturday night where we bring the famous players back? Or
the signature Saturdays have gone away.
Okay.
What we have gone to are superhero nights.
Oh.
Because we've just seen that as family friendly between the prices and concessions and merch and entertainment that we have at Victory Field, the superheroes really fall into that category.
Is that Saturday night?
Those are not this Saturday night, but they will pick up when we start in June.
So tell the folks, if they want to check the schedule, find out when the superhero nights are, for instance, give it the website.
Yeah, website's IndyIndians.com. Very simple. You can go to our homepage. There will be a media wall up. It usually shows what the latest and greatest promotion is at Victory Field. You can buy tickets directly there. There's a little tickets drop-down menu as well. That allows you to get single game tickets that start as low as $12 to sit out on the lawn. That's cheap. You get to bring a blanket in. You get to bring your own cooler in as well.
Cooler?
It's
no beer.
No
beer.
No alcohol, but pretty great setup to enjoy a game from the lawn. You upgrade to a reserve ticket, it's $15. You want to sit behind home plate or the dugouts, it's $18. I mean, you do not find that at any other ballpark. And I don't want to hammer on the Pacers or the Colts.
They're a little expensive.
It's a little pricey. It does just, there's a big tick in cost if you want to go to one of those games. We've got 2 great premium spaces at the ballpark as well. Yingling Landing out in left field is a $30 ticket. You get wait service right on you.
I've seen that.
Specialty menu out there as well. You want to go into the club? You been in the club yet?
Not yet.
You got to get up there.
Well, we'll talk about that. I got these great seats right behind third base. But I've looked up there and thought, it might be an interesting place to sit. You might get hit by a foul ball, though, right?
Well, we raised the nets a little bit, so you're protected a little bit more than back in 2021. But the ticket up there is $85. It's all you can eat, all you can drink from before gates open or when gates open until the last out.
Yeah.
Until the last out. So it's not the 7th inning cutoff that you're used to on alcohol if you're trying to enjoy 9 innings of having drinks. You go up in the club.
Do you give everybody a designated driver?
Yeah, that is the key as well. We encourage Uber service. We've got a little spot outside the front side of the stadium there for Uber pickup too.
Great. Cheyne Reiter with the Indianapolis Indians. Go Tribe. My first sports love. Thanks for being our guest today. Give us that website one more time. You want to check the schedule or the special nights and so forth.
Yeah, the promotions, tickets, any information on the Indians, just go to IndyIndians.com. You can also call our box office, 317-269-3545. They're open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Unless the Indians are home, then you can keep those phones ringing through the night.
Well, get out to the ballpark and take your kids. Next week's guest will be Vicky Yamasaki of Corpus Christi for Unity and Peace. And we'll see you then. And have a great weekend. Take care and go green.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Indy's Trusted Servant Show. If you liked this episode, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more updates. The Indy's Trusted Servant Show is produced by InspireSmall.biz in Indianapolis, Indiana. For more episodes of the Indy's Trusted Servant Show, visit www.inspiresmall.biz/Indy's Trusted Servant. Thanks for watching.